Hi. One of the comments that came up on my video about what I believe to be the Tories' slump in popularity, what is their slump in popularity, but the reasons I believed it to be. One comment came up about something I said regarding Sadiq Khan getting a historic third term in London. The crime has risen on his watch. Admittedly, that was maybe a bit of a throwaway statement by myself. I don't think it's entirely wrong though, because with this, it very much depends on what we look at. Now, I was careful in the video to say that for a city of its size, London is not that dangerous. I mean, certainly if you compare London to Moscow or Sao Paulo or other major world cities, it's not by any means the most dangerous. And there's many smaller cities that are far more dangerous than London. Um, but perception of crime is a very important thing. Now, Sadiq Khan got a third term, and this can only indicate that he has still got some degree of support in the capital. It was significantly, it was a comfortable win. It wasn't even close. It was well above his nearest rival, Conservative Susan Hall. Um, but I thought it would be worth looking a bit at some of the statistics that are available to actually, analyze this. And one of the comments, like I say, that gave me the idea for this was from A.O. Neil. I often say I don't want an echo chamber on this channel, so even comments that are critical can sometimes inspire me to make other videos. So, I value all of that. Not trolling comments, obviously, but um, people could disagree with me, and sometimes I can look at things in a fresh way. Um, Looking at the statistics, I would say that Khan's record has been inconsistent. I think probably the Tory perspective of this, the Tory conclusions about his mayoralty are exaggerated. Um, but at the same time, I don't think it's anything to shout about. I think it's basically inconsistent. I'm going to try and lay out what I mean by that. So, Statista, this is one source I'm looking at. Number of police recorded knife or sharp instrument offences in London from 2015-16 to 2022-23. Now, in 2015-16, that is the last year of Boris Johnson's mayoralty, there were 9,752 knife offences in London. In 2019-20, that's under Khan's mayoralty, there were 15,928. That's a significant increase. A significant increase. And on Khan's watch, it's been consistently higher. In fact, every year of Khan's mayoralty has been higher than the last year of Boris Johnson's watch. So I don't think it's false to say that knife crime has increased in London. Clearly, it has. 12,786 offences in 22-23. Now, there was a big slump in 2020-21, but this may merely reflect the national picture with COVID, i.e., even criminals were probably indoors. COVID affected everything, so I think 2020 is just a freak year. I think it's different in every sense. Um, so I don't think it's misleading to say that knife crime has increased in London on Sadiq Khan's watch. And could it be argued that with the Metropolitan Police's reduction in stop and search, there's been a correlation there? That's to be debated within itself. I don't intend to go into the ins and outs of that in one video, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a correlation. Um, I definitely veer towards the argument that stop and search saves lives. The Guardian fact check. This is from a few months ago, and the report is by Michael Goodyear and Kevin Rawlinson. Now, I'm going to put these links in the video because I'm not going to read the whole thing out, but Capital's mayor is often accused of allowing crime to soar, but Guardian analysis shows reality is more nuanced. Um, Bear in mind, this is the Guardian, it's not a right-wing source. So, a London under siege with criminals ruling the streets, that's not the plot of a comic book, but rather the picture that mayoral candidate Susan Hall, now defeated mayoral candidate, painted of the capital in an article for the Express on Saturday. And I'm just going to look at some of the things here. Like I said, I'm not going to read the whole thing out just for space reasons. Antisocial behaviour. This depends on what people class as antisocial behaviour. That's not entirely, a straightforward definition. To my mind, it would be, blaring loud music late at night, drinking, being aggressive to neighbours, teenagers, harassing people, going up and down on bikes, that sort of thing. Um, vandalism. Perceptions of antisocial behaviour in London differ from people's experiences. Despite the relatively low numbers of people actually experiencing antisocial behaviour, 9% of people perceive that there are high level of antisocial behaviour above the England and Wales average of 7.8%. I'm surprised it's that low anywhere, to be honest. I would have thought it was a lot higher, the perception. But anyway, people experiencing or witnessing antisocial behaviour by police force area in England and Wales, London is a lot lower than other areas. In Wales, it's particularly high. Gwent, 50%. That's appalling. The North East's very high up here as well. Um, let's see. East Midlands is high, South East. London's actually at the bottom. The City of London and the Metropolitan Police, 26.4%, so about a quarter. That's interesting. It's at the very bottom of the ONS crime survey for England and Wales regarding people who have witnessed antisocial behaviour. Now, murder, this one's more nuanced. The murder rate in London has also dropped in recent years. Early figures suggest 110 murders were recorded by the Metropolitan Police in 2023, broadly in line with 2022. That's down from a peak of 153 in 2019. I would say 2019 was Cannes' peak crime year. But I remember at one point in that year, London was described as more dangerous than New York City. That's now New York's once again got dangerous, and is also lower than the 120 recorded in 2015, Boris Johnson's last full year of mayor. But if we look at the graph there, it's clear that the two Labour mayors, Ken Livingstone and Sadiq Khan, the homicide rate was high. Now, to be fair to Livingstone, it did go down during his mayoralty, but the lowest rates were under Boris Johnson. That's just the facts. And murder's not something that's nuanced. It's quite clear cut. It's one of the most serious crimes possible, so it's pretty easy to record. It's not like a crime that's far more abundant, which is open to interpretation. Murder is straightforward, or at least more straightforward than other crimes. It's pretty clear that the lowest rate was under Boris Johnson's watch. There was a slight peak at the end of his mayoralty, but then it went down again. Under Sadiq Khan, it went up. And yes, it's reduced slightly, but it hasn't been lower than Boris Johnson's watch. Um, Interestingly, though, it's not the worst in the country. The rate, roughly equivalent to 12 for every 1 million people, is far from the worst police area for homicides when compared to Bedfordshire, Cleveland, Merseyside, West Mercia, South Yorkshire, Humberside, and Northumbria. Interesting. Again, we have to bear in mind Greater London's over 9 million people, so just over 100 murders really shouldn't be surprising. Like I say, knife crime hasn't been consistently low under Khan. It has went up. Um, Gun crime. This is a misleading claim by the Tottenham Conservative Association. It soared by 2,500% in 1 year. Now, that was shared in conservative sources that actually turned out to be false. In fact, the Daily Mail had to retract that. The latest statistics for the year ending in March 23 showed there were 12 firearm offences for every 100,000 residents in London. That puts it behind Gloucestershire, Merseyside, Greater Manchester, Northamptonshire, West Yorkshire, the West Midlands, South Yorkshire, and Cleveland. Um, and gun crime has fallen across England and Wales in general. Back in 2007-08, the capital recorded 44 firearms offences for every 100,000 people. That's now down to 12 with the latest available data. So I think we can say with this that the crime wave under Khan has been exaggerated, no doubt for political gain by Conservatives. However, if I was Khan supporters, I wouldn't be too triumphant. Knife crime remains stubbornly high. It hasn't reduced to the levels that it was under Boris Johnson, and certainly it's one of the things that you associate with London. So I don't think that's been a resounding success. Um, it has to be said the police are under enormous pressure with the pro-Palestinian protests, but I do think that they should take some responsibility for misplaced priorities. Now, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to put the two sources. I think if we look at Khan's record as mayor, it's not as bad as Conservatives say it is, but nor has it been a resounding triumph, particularly with knife crime. London was safest under Boris Johnson when it came to knife crime, and the statistics show that. 2019 was a peak year for homicide, for knife crime. Not saying overall, but certainly compared to Johnson's watch. So that's interesting. Anyway, I'll put a link to the sources, but it goes to show, politics so often is partisan, sources can be cherry picked. Um, yes, crime has been exaggerated under Khan, but I don't think it's fair to say that it's been consistently reducing either. It's been inconsistent. I would say that's his record, inconsistent.